The verse we're talking about today, go around doing good, which is from this verse in Acts 10. Jesus went around doing good. So let's have a little Bible study on this, and then I'm going to give you some examples. This is doing something. It's not thinking about it. It's not just thinking, I ought to do this for them. I ought to go ahead and do that. But you never do it, and they say, well, it's the thought that counts. Well, no. I'm going to think you all $1 million right now. That was the $1 million. You probably didn't get it just because I was thinking good thoughts. Wish you had $1 million. It's not planning or talking about what we're going to do. It's doing something. He ran around doing good. When somebody actually does those things. It should be a habit of life. He went around. Just a habit of life. Not, well, it's Christmas, let's do something good. We got to do something good at Christmas, but make it a habit of life. To go around doing good. And Jesus is our example in this. Don't step over those around you to do good. Yes, send some money to somebody who needs it in another country who's poor. That's good. But don't step around your family. I like this verse here in Galatians 6. Whenever we have the opportunity, when do we do it? Whenever we have the opportunity. We should do good to everyone, especially to those in the family of faith. Especially to those that are close to us. It also says in another place, if you don't take care of your family, you're worse than an infidel. How bad you got to be worse than an infidel? Who is that? They don't take care of their family. So don't step over the people right around you to do good for somebody else. Do good right there. And there you have opportunity all the time. With your family, with your church family, with the people, your neighbors you work with. Don't step over them, but also have opportunity to do good other places. Jesus was not just a good man, but a God man. So when I say that Jesus went around doing good, I don't want you to think, well, he was a nice guy. No, it's more than that. It says in this same message where Peter is preaching, Acts chapter 10, where he said Jesus around going good. He said there is peace with God through Jesus Christ, who is Lord of all. Okay? This is the only way to peace with God, through Jesus Christ, and Jesus is the Lord of all. So he's not just good man, he is God man. He is something special and different. And then to help us understand this, understand the main mission of a church and a Christian is not to do good works, but to make disciples of Jesus. Now, what I'm saying that is because some people and some churches got the idea, our mission in this world is to do good for people. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But more important than that is to spread the good news, the gospel about Jesus Christ, so that they can have forgiveness and walk with God and go to heaven. If we do a lot of good for them and feed them and yet don't tell them about Jesus, we messed up. We messed up. We didn't put the first things first. And so we want to make sure as a church and as a Christian, we always get those where they're supposed to go. And good works are not the way to salvation, but salvation should lead to good works. Okay, this is not because let's do good so I can pile up a bunch of stuff and God will see that and will say, boy, you definitely get to go to heaven. All the good things you did, I'm taking you to heaven. No, that's not the way. We know that, but we need to double down on that to make sure we don't go like some churches have went. And think that the idea is your good works get you to heaven. They do not. You get to heaven because of Jesus Christ. And then because we're saved, we want to make sure we do good works. And one more, people are oppressed by the devil. In this same message, Acts chapter 10, Peter said, same verse actually, healing all who were oppressed by the devil. Now I think that means more than physical healing. And I'm not going to get into all this, what does the devil do? But the idea is, I think there's a lot more going on than we realize in the battle of good and evil, and the forces of light and the forces of darkness. In the prayer, Jesus told us to pray. He said, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And it's really, they say it's evil one. We need to pray, God, deliver us from the evil one, because he's after you. And you say, well, I've not really had any battle. Well, I hate to tell you, but you had. And if you don't know you've had a battle, you're in worse shape. I guarantee the devil is trying to tear up your life, your family, your kids, this church, the people around you, America. I mean, if you're going to pick a country, pick the country that sent out the most gospel preachers, the most missionaries, the most mission money, stood up as a country of light, tried to tear that down, and I think he is. We need to understand, everybody's in a battle. Everybody is fighting a battle. Oppressed by the devil. And you know what? You can't completely get rid of that, but you know something that can help? Is do a little good in their life. Give them a little hope. Give them a little idea that there is still love in this world. There is still goodness in this world, instead of being so discouraged. How's one way we can do that? Go around doing good. When everybody seems to be dividing into all kinds of groups, and everybody's going home and pressing the garage door and pulling in, you don't even hardly talk to your neighbors, and you watch your own TV or play your own games, what is something that can help pull us back together? Because that's the way God made us, to need each other. One way is going around doing good. And also, I want to tell you something else. When you go around doing good, it's better for you. You feel better. You are blessed. So, the Bible tells us, I believe, to go around doing good. Let's look at some Bible examples of people doing good. All right, can you tell who that is? Joseph. Yeah. Pulling away from Potiphar's wife who's trying to seduce him. If anybody could rationalize giving in to sin, it could have been Joseph. Got sold as a slave by his brothers. He's in another country far from home, trying to do what's right, and his boss's wife tells him you ought to do this. He could have said, well, I've got to do, and he could have rationalized and give in to sin. But he did not. And you know what happened? Something bad. Sometimes you do good and bad things happen. I just want to give you that warning. Because you feel like, what is the use of doing good? But then what happened? Later on, Joseph saved his whole nation, his whole family. Abraham and all, his father Jacob and all came down there. So a lot of times when you do good, you don't see immediately blessings, all right? But it is still right to do good. Joseph did good. Can you guess who this is? Now, Moses' mother. Moses' mother. Now, the government said, kill those babies. Kill those male babies. And we always do what the government says, right? See, there's a hard one. Because we're told in the Bible, if you can, obey the laws. The laws are made to keep us all so we have order. And it's good to have laws in order. We don't want anarchy. But it also says, if the laws of man go against God, we obey God rather than man. And Moses' mother obeyed God rather than man, and she did good. She saved the deliverer, Moses. So we got God to help us in this time when we're tested more and more what we should do to make sure we obey God rather than man, even if there is a cost. Moses' mother did good. All right, anybody guess who this is? This is a little harder to guess who that is. Ruth and Naomi. Whoever said that, good. Ruth and Naomi. You know, both of them's husbands died. And she could have stayed in her home country, but she helped her mother-in-law. Now, that's good. You help your mother-in-law. But she did. And what she did, she became an ancestor of Jesus Christ by doing good. Ruth did good. All right, here is Andrew telling his brother Peter about Jesus. And Peter got saved, became the leader of the disciples, preached on the day of Pentecost. 3,000 people got saved. And he's the one who preaching this message in Acts chapter 10, where Jesus went around doing good to the first Gentiles to become Christians, Cornelius and his gang. Because his brother told him about Jesus. Andrew did good. This is Stephen, being killed for nothing but telling people about Jesus. But there watching was Paul. Saul of Tarsus, who became Paul, became a leader in the Christian church, wrote a lot of the books of the Bible. Stephen was a man of faith and bravery and courage. Stephen did good. And of course, you know this is because it says right there, Barnabas. Barnabas, that wasn't even his name. That's his nickname. Son of encouragement. And so everybody called him by his nickname. When Saul became a Christian and nobody trusted him, Barnabas took him under his wings. He encouraged him. And that was his life, to think the best about people and encourage them. Barnabas did good. So, when we do good, sometimes it seems like immediately we see some blessings. Sometimes immediately it doesn't work out too good. But long term, it is right to do good. Jesus set the example. These people set the example. To go around doing good. And you know what? In the end, you're going to leave a legacy. And it may be a little thing, but when God is in it, it can be big. Like what these people did. So you keep going around doing good and leave a legacy. I want to give you some examples. These came out back during COVID. Somebody said, send in some things that happened that are good, because we need to hear. So I got some of these off the internet. One of them, this is a airport terminal. And a professor of a university went in December to speak at a military base. So a soldier came, picked him up by the name of Ralph. And he says, as they're walking to the baggage claim, Ralph keeps disappearing. He goes over and there's two kids who want to see Santa Claus. They can't see him. He helps the kids up. Somebody else is lost, and he goes and gives them directions. An old lady's suitcase fell apart. He goes over and helps her get it fixed up. And finally, the professor says to him, where did you learn to live like that? He says, what do you mean? He says, you keep going and helping somebody. He says, oh. He says, well, I was in Vietnam. And I was in the group that had to go out and search for the minefield. I saw many of my friends blow up in front of my eyes when they stepped on a mine. And so I had to learn to live between the steps, because I knew that step might be my last one. And so now, when I got a chance to do something good, I do it right then. Wow, what a good attitude to have, to learn to live between the steps. Somebody said the abundance of our lives is not determined by how long we live. It is determined by how well we live. You can live to be 100 and be all selfish and greedy and leave a terrible legacy. Or you can live a short life, but live it to help others and live in the name of Jesus and leave a great legacy. And God help us to live that kind of life, how well we live. And just like that soldier, we don't need to wait until we're not busy. You know when that'll end up? When you're laying in a coffin. Then you'll be not busy. But it's too late to do any good. Now, today, this week, this month, this year, now is the time to do good. What does it say? Whenever we have the opportunity. When you see an opportunity to do good, when I see an opportunity to do good, don't wait. Now, I still remember the story that I learned 40 years ago when I was in another state. There's a picture of an airplane there. I went to dinner with a couple before I was even married on a Sunday afternoon. And we're sitting around there, and he's telling me about one Sunday afternoon how he took a nap. Now, he owned part interest in an airplane. And in the airport, which was the Anderson Airport near Chesterfield, he would take people up for a certain amount of money sometimes. So he says, I woke up from a nap and I'm groggy at the door, or somebody's at the door, and I opened the door, and he said, it's a guy that used to be in the youth group, and he worked with the young people. And now he's a soldier, and he's got a soldier friend with him. And he said, I told my friend here how that you had a plane, and sometimes you took people up for a flight. And he said, yeah, I take people up for such and such amount. And he said, okay, well, it's good to see you, and he left. He said he closed the door and he sat back down, and he got to thinking, I bet he told his friend that if he come over and mentioned that, I would take them up in the plane for free. And he said, and I thought to myself, why did I not just volunteer to take them up for free? It wasn't that much money. Until that day, he regretted what he didn't do when he had an opportunity to do good. Someone has said at the end of our life, the most of our regrets are not what we did that was wrong, but the good things we didn't do and we could have. Someday we're going to be sorry. Why wasn't I nice to that person? Why didn't I help that neighbor? Why wasn't I good to them? And we'll have regrets that we can't do anything about. So, when you get the chance to do good, grab it. Here's another story I like. This guy on the left is 96 years old, World War II veteran. He came into a Chick-fil-A. His tire was flat. And here's a guy who probably fixed a lot of flat tires. Here's a guy who went over and almost he was willing to give his life to fight. But now he's 96 and he can't remember how to change a tire. And he said he was almost at tears. And the manager of the Chick-fil-A said, "I'll take care of it." Now he's busy. He's managing a bunch of workers, feeding a lot of people. But the manager of the Chick-fil-A went out and changed the tire for him. And another friend took a picture of it. And you know what? I bet he remembers that a lot longer than how many hamburgers they sold. Well, I guess they don't sell anything in Chick-fil-A. We can sell any hamburgers today. We sold chicken. You know what? Sometimes those good things you do are a lot more important than the things we thought were so important. And it certainly meant a lot to that 96-year-old veteran. Here's a little girl in England at 4 years old. She had a dream that some kids wouldn't get Christmas presents. So she told her mom they had decided they were going to collect Christmas presents to give away to people who didn't have them. And so they told other people they'd made decorations and sold them. And I ended up with 200 care packages. Because sometimes when you go out to do good, some other people say, "I want to be a part of that." And they'll follow and help you do good. But another thing is, I think we ought to teach young people to do good. Teach our children, now's the time you do good. Our teenagers, now is the time you get involved in doing good. Not till you wait till you get out of college. So, encourage others to help. This is a fast food restaurant just to get the picture of another true story. Two firefighters went in line to get lunch. When the alarm went off in their truck and they had to turn around and leave without lunch, somebody else, a couple who had just got their lunch, handed it and said, "Here, eat this on the way. You can have ours." They got back in line to buy another lunch. When they got up there, the manager says, "You ain't paying. You've already paid. You take your free lunch." So 5 people were blessed. The 2 firefighters, the couple, and the manager were blessed by one act. You want to do blessing to people? Go do something good. It blesses them and it blesses you when we go around doing good. Here's another true story. A lady was at the supermarket and she realized she was $12 over on the stuff she had there, so she started taking it off. The man behind her laid a 20 down and said, "Here, pay for the rest of it." She said, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I'll get this later." He said, "No." He said, "I just came from my mother this morning. I got to go every morning. She's battling cancer. I take her a bouquet of flowers." And she said, "Would you quit bringing me flowers every day? Take that money and go do good with it." So he said, "Here, this is my mother's flowers." Just another way to do good for somebody. Here is, I don't know if you can read this, but it says, "Dear waitress, today would have been my beautiful mother's 68th birthday." And if you look at the date at the bottom, it looks like she only lived to be 48, which is how my mother lived to be. And she said she worked her entire life as a waitress to help provide for her 3 kids. It's an exhausting job and often not much to show for the hard work. So in honor of my mom's birthday, I hope this pays for an unforeseen bill, a trip for ice cream for kids, or a much-deserved mani-pedi. I had to look that up. That means manicure, pedicure. Thank you all kindly, the proud daughter of Linda. And she gave her $68. You don't have to tip $68 every time, but I bet it helped that waitress that day. And it meant something to her because it honored her mother. How about this one? This is at IHOP. Joe Thomas works there at IHOP, and he has a couple of regulars. The wife has Huntington disease, can't feed herself. So they come every week. The husband feeds her, then he feeds himself. One week, Joe, the worker there, said, I want you two to eat at the same time. So he fed the wife as the husband ate. Who does that?
Wow.
Who is humble enough? I'll feed you while you can eat together. But what does that mean when we go around doing good? It encourages us. It gives us hope. It gives us community. I like this one. Talk about young people being a blessing. A guy named Clarence Stevens in Kentucky says, I was leaving the store. As I got out the parking lot, I realized I locked my keys and my cell phone in the car. I didn't know what I was going to do, and a teenager come riding his bicycle along, and he saw me kicking the car and saying some few choice words about the mistake he made. And he said, what's wrong? He said, well, I don't know. He said, if I could call my wife, she can't even bring me the keys because this is our only car. He said, I tell you what, I got a cell phone. You call her, tell her to give me the keys when I get there, and I'll bring it back. He said, but that'd be 7 miles there and back. He said, that's no problem. So he called his wife, he went, came back in a few minutes, 7 miles later, and he said, man, I can't believe you did that. Thanks so much. Here's some money. He says, no, just say that I needed exercise, and the teenager drove off. That teenager's going to be pretty good. If he'll start that as a teenager, offer like that. That's the kind of people we need to see, isn't it? And it's the kind of people we need to be. In Arizona, Gilbert, outside of Phoenix, this little girl's father was a policeman, but he was killed on duty. So it was daddy-daughter dance at the school, and all these other policemen went with her. She had a whole bunch of daddies to dance with at the daddy-daughter dance. Wow. Another woman told that she was from the state of Washington. She was driving home in a blizzard. I noticed there was a car following me close, and all of a sudden my tire blew. I pulled over the side of the road. The guy jumped out and he come up there and he started, let me change it. He started changing. He said, I was going to get off 2 miles back, but I saw that tire didn't look good, so I stayed with you and then changed your tire. A chance to do good. Whenever we have the opportunity, let's do good to everyone. This is an interesting story. I love these true stories like this. Chris Toki was born 10 weeks early. And then he got a severe, threatening high fever with infection. It could have killed him. The pediatrician stayed with him 2 days and nights to make sure he lived. And of course he did live. 30 years later, he's grown up. He's a paramedic. There's a car wrecked and on fire. The man is trapped inside the car on fire. Chris and another guy helped get him out, take him, put him in an ambulance. He's rescued. He's okay. And guess who it was? It was a doctor who saved his life 30 years earlier.
Wow.
So sometimes you do good and you get it back. It blesses you. I like this one too. This is a lady from England told this. She said, back when I was 7 years old, we visited America. We went to the Grand Canyon. We're driving along, and I let my blanket go, and it went out the window. We didn't know where it went. So she said, we get to a service station, and she's moping along, getting ready to eat on us because she lost her blanket, her favorite blanket. That meant so much to us. Then a group of bikers gang came up. A big old biker came up to her mother, said, is this your blue Ford? Yeah. He pulled out the blanket, said, here you go. He turned around and left. The little girl said, I did the only thing I do. I ran up and I gave him my sandwich. Even bikers can do some good things. I'm just kidding on the even bikers, but I did that for Roy because he's a big biker. This lady said from Minnesota, when my husband died unexpectedly, a co-worker took me under her wing. Every week for 1 year, she sent me a card with encouragement. She said it saved my life. Some simple thing is sending a card. And I end with that example because when my wife died last year, I got a lot of cards. I never was a card guy that much, but all of these cards wrote real things about how they loved Sandy, how much Sandy meant to them, and specific things that Sandy did that made an impact in their life. I'm keeping those cards. I look at them again every once in a while. And then I remembered that over her life, Sandy sent thousands. Now, I don't mean that as exaggeration. She literally sent thousands of cards over the 45 years we ministered. She would send cards since we first started together married. And she sent them to people who were sick, people who got married, people who lost somebody, just as an encouragement, as a note of thanks. One day I went to church, in our first church, and somebody came up and said, "Thank you for that nice card. That meant so much." And I went, "Did I send them a card?" I went and told Sandy. She said, "Oh yeah, I always sign it Richard and Sandy." So I learned from them, when they come up and thank me for a gift or a card, I say, "You're welcome." I help pay for the stamp, so But Sandy, she's one who was an example of this verse. She went around doing good, and I saw that close up. She cooked meals. She had people at our house for lunch. She gave encouragement. She gave gifts. She gave rides. She prayed with people. She prayed for people. She gave good ideas. She did Bible studies. She taught children. She invited people to church. She taught women how to live as Christians. And on I go. When we first moved to where we live now, of course, we didn't know our neighbors, and it seemed like people don't know our neighbors as much. So three of them that across here beside us all had little children. So she said, "I'm going to start a music class for free for kids." And so they would come over once a week, and that way we'd get to know the parents too. Plus we had them over for lunch. And all of them got to be good friends of ours. And at her funeral, all three families were there. Because they not only did it in honor of her, they loved her. Because she did good. She went around doing good. And I'm doing good today because when I went over this in my mind yesterday, I cried through this whole thing. Thinking about Sandy. But that was her life. There's three people, I thought about it, who very influential, a lot of influence. Three who were the most influential. My mother, my youth director, Stanley, you've heard me talk about, and my wife. And all three of them went around doing good. They did it in the name of Jesus. They lived for Him. But all three of them went around doing good. They impacted people. And they impacted me. And they left. All three of them now are dead. And they left an impact in my life and so many other lives. They left a legacy. And I don't know what we can do to save America, but I know one thing we can do to help the people that we can. And that's go around doing good. Amen. We just got to find ways to pray with them and pray for them and send them a card and then give them $20 and help them with the trouble they've got and whatever we can to give them encouragement. Go around doing good. We can all do that. And little is much when God is in it. And that little thing that you do can mean a lot to somebody. Which is what I found out. Some things I didn't even know she did for people. But it meant a lot to them 30 years, 40 years later. We can all do that. We can all, whenever we have opportunity to do good to everyone, especially those close around us. Look for ways. Be kind to each other. Ephesians 4. Be kind. Be kind. To your family, your church family, your neighbors, everybody you can.